rain because I was going on my walk, and I thought, you know what, I'll get a little walk in and then I'll do a live stream outdoors so that it's not just me indoors in the same position. And then I've ended up in my car anyway because the rain hasn't stopped. So I'm going to continue with it. Hopefully the sound isn't too loud because I can hear the rain beating down. But do you know what? Usually I'd be going live on a Monday because it's Easter Monday on Monday. This is just to replace the live stream that would have been on Monday. And what I'm going to talk about is 6 communication issues in relationships and how to resolve them. If you see me looking down, it's because I've got the information in front of me. It's just so that I don't go off beat, just so that I stick to the points. So this comes up a lot. This is probably one of the biggest areas where people, either couples go for couples counselling. It's one of the areas when individuals come for relationship, when they want to talk about relationships, what comes up is communication. And I think what you have to think about is, as individuals, if you need to spend time working on your own communication skills before you get into a relationship, but also once you're in a relationship, because you can't necessarily do anything about someone else's communication style, but you can do something about your own. So these are 6 things that come up a lot for couples, and I want to just talk through them. The first one is stonewalling, or being silent, silencing someone and using it as a weapon. So when you use stonewalling, it means you shut people down. Literally, they're talking about something which is really important to them, something that's really hurtful, something that they want to address, that they want you to change, and you shut them down. You either change the topic, or you can sometimes make it be dismissive. You can say something like, why are we talking about this now? Or why are you always talking about that? Or aren't you sick of talking about the same thing? I'm sick of this. It doesn't go anywhere. Why are you making a big deal out of it? So there's lots of ways people can stonewall someone, but it basically means putting a wall up on that thing and saying, we're not going to talk about this anymore. It can be really hurtful. It can be really damaging to the relationship. It can make the person feel like they're not heard. And it's very intimidating when someone does that. Same as using silence. There was a Facebook post recently where people were admitting that they use silence as a weapon with their partner. They say, I do it on purpose because I just don't want to talk to them anymore. There was other people that have been on the receiving end and saying how it makes them feel. It's a form of emotional abuse, or it can be. It can be a form of emotional abuse because of the fact that when you are silent and you're ignoring someone intentionally, especially when you're doing it for days or you're doing it for hours and you know that it's affecting or hurting that person, then that is a form of abuse because you know it's hurting the person. You're intentionally withdrawing communication. So it can be it can trigger people, but it can also be a really damaging thing to the relationship. Thanks to everyone that's joining. So how can you deal with someone when they are stonewalling you or when they're doing the silent treatment? So the key thing is to call the person out on it. Don't be afraid to call that person out and say to your partner, I've noticed that you keep giving me the silent treatment. I've noticed that you keep stonewalling when we talk about a particular thing. So once you've drawn to their attention that you know what they're doing, the next bit is to tell them how it makes you feel. So first of all, it's, I know that you keep hi, thanks for joining, Osama, Maki, and everyone who's joining. So tell the person what they're doing. Tell the person how it's making you feel. And the third thing to do is not to react. Don't react when someone is doing the same thing. So when people do this a lot in relationships. Someone does something that treats you badly or does something disrespectful, and you then do the same thing back. But then all that does is create this game, this deadlock, because if you're both ignoring each other and you say, I'm not going to talk to him first, or I'm not going to break this deadlock. If they want to initiate a conversation, they can. It just means you're getting involved in game playing, and it just never works in a relationship because you don't feel good about what you're doing. Thanks, Deegan. Happy Easter to you too. So that's stonewalling and silence treatment. The second thing that comes up a lot, communication issues, poor listening skills. So this is where the person is wanting to get their point across, where they literally are so angry sometimes when they're talking to their partner. They're not even listening. They're not even hearing what their partner says. When you watch some of these programs, thanks, Ruby. Nice to see you, and Osama. When you watch some of these programs like Married at First Sight or any Love Island, any program where it's to do with dating or relationships, you can see when people are not listening to each other. As a counsellor, I'm always looking at body language, but I'm always looking at how people communicate. And sometimes people are talking and they're so heightened and they're so, heated up that they're not even listening to what their partner is saying. So this is a key thing we have to work on. So the other thing, because it can have an impact, because it can make the person feel undervalued. It can make the person feel like you don't care what they're saying. I've been in situations myself where people are just not listening to me. Where am I traveling to? I'm not traveling anywhere at the minute, Buckethead. I'm just here in my car because it's raining. I was going for a walk. So what you have to think about is you have to express to your partner how you feel. So some of these things are just a matter of not just calling out your partner, but expressing to them what it means. When you don't listen to me, I feel. Someone can't argue with you when you feel a certain way and when you say it but when you say to them, you make me feel, or you don't ever listen, or you're this, then you're going to get that person becoming defensive. So don't fall into that trap of telling them you this, you that. Communication is very important, Rui. So poor listening skills. The person might not have either understand that they're not listening very well. They might not realise how the impact it's having on you. But most of us don't realise sometimes how we communicate. If I didn't do a counselling course where I've trained for 4 years and then I've been a counsellor for 16 years, that has helped with my communication. But I'm not perfect either. There's times where I know that I've communicated in a way that isn't probably the best when it comes to family or friends or partners. And I've had to sit and reflect on my own communication. So listening is something you can train yourself to do. So a key thing for active listening is to listen without waiting to respond. So when I'm speaking to my clients or when my clients are talking, I'm just listening. I'm taking everything in. I'm actively hearing everything they're saying, but I'm not waiting to say something. I'm not thinking what they're saying about what they're talking about. I'm just listening. Active listening means you require no response. You just sit there and you listen. So that's something you can practice. The third thing that comes up for couples in relationships is assumptions and trying to fix things. So there's many times where people do not want a solution. They just want an emotion. They just want to talk. How do you continue a conversation because you don't know how to? I'm not sure about what that means. So you've put Buckethead. How do you continue a conversation because you don't know how to? If you're not sure on how to have the conversation or where to start or what you want to say, then sometimes it's best not to have that conversation at that time. There's a video I made which is called The Right Time and the Wrong Time. 5 wrong times, I think it's called, to have conversations. One of them, for example, is late at night when people are tired. The other time is when you're interrupting someone, say like they're having the lunch break at work and you're trying to have a heavy conversation and there's not enough time to really explore it. Another time could be the minute someone walks in from work through the door. Right, I need to talk to you about this. There's so many times where we have to think about timing. Timing is everything when it comes to communication. So making assumptions, it's not a bad thing. Sometimes someone wants to fix things. Someone wants to say, okay, well, you're talking about this, so this is the answer, this is the solution. Not everyone wants that. I know for a fact sometimes when I want to talk to someone about something, I just want to offload. But I let that person know. I say, I don't want you to fix it. I don't need you to give me any solutions. I just want to talk about this because it's bothering me. I just want to talk about this because I need to get it off my chest. So I think we can help educate our partner so they understand what we want, because it is a natural thing, especially for men, but in relationships, if you go to a man, most of the time, I've got 4 brothers, so I know this, I've been in relationships, they want to fix things, and that's not a bad thing. You can't say to the person who's always saying this is the solution, well, why don't you do this? You can't blame them because they want to help you. That's how they fix things. Yeah, especially for men, you like to fix things. And that's a good thing. I'll go to my brothers a lot of times with problems that I know that they can fix. Anything to do with the car, anything to do with building, a shelf for me or doing the garden for me. I will always go to them and they will do that for me. But there's times where women and men just want to say, oh, I had a bad day at work, or oh, my mum is doing my head in, or whatever it is, and they don't need a solution. But then that's how you have to work as a couple, because you have to say to that person, I just need a hug, or I just need you to listen and I don't need any solutions. But you need to share that with the person, because otherwise they will assume that's what you want. This comes up a lot, and you'd be surprised at how many times this comes up as an issue for couples, because they're not expressing what it is that they need, but the other person is coming in with a solution, and then they're saying, I wish he wouldn't always just try and fix it. All I need is to talk. Well, you need to express that to your partner, that you just need to talk. So that's an easy fix. Express what you need. Educate your partner by saying, sometimes I just want to offload. Sometimes I don't need you to fix it. Sometimes when you say you just come in with a solution, it ruins things for me because that's not what I'm wanting. But let them know, because they're not going to know otherwise. So the fourth thing, this comes up not just in intimate relationships, this comes up a lot in life, and this is the passive-aggressive person. So someone who is passive-aggressive is because they've either run out of things to say and they're losing the argument. This happens on social media a lot. Or their nature is to just be like that. They think being sarcastic, being funny, throwing in a few jokes when it's inappropriate. They feel like being passive-aggressive is funny. They think it will have an impact on the person. They're waiting for a reaction. You can't, in that situation, do not respond with passive-aggressive behavior back to your partner. If your partner is doing this, it's from a place of insecurity. They don't know what else to do. They don't know how to respond to what you're saying. They don't know how to have a normal conversation. They probably lack a little bit of emotional intelligence. So being passive-aggressive and throwing something in there, and it does sting when people do that, because I've been on the receiving end of passive-aggressiveness as well. When I was studying as a counsellor, when I've worked in certain jobs which were very toxic, I've been on the receiving end, and you don't really know what to do, because you know it's passive-aggressiveness, but you also sometimes question yourself and think, oh, am I overreacting? So the thing is, if you have to look at it from the point of view of this person has an inability to communicate properly. So they're throwing passive-aggressive jabs in there because that's all they can do. So rather than you meeting them at the same place and being passive-aggressive towards them, let the person know that they're being passive-aggressive, call it out. Some of these behaviours, you need to call it out, but not to start an argument, not to escalate things, but to actually be quite clear and firm with the person. Thanks, Rui, thanks for subscribing. So what you would say is just say to the person, what you just said, that comment you made, I found that really passive-aggressive. Maybe they'll disagree with you and say, well, I don't think it was. We'll say, well, that's how I received it. And in future, when we're having a conversation, what I would like you to do is to just think about some of the words you're using, think about the tone you're using, and think about what's going to bring us forward as a couple rather than like what's going to draw us back. Sometimes it's about one person in that relationship has to have the level head, because if you've got two hotheads in a relationship, which is another thing that comes up, it just escalates and escalates. I've worked with over 100 couples over the years. I've been a relationship counsellor as well as working with individuals. The amount of times where it is just a simple thing, but it blows out of proportion. It's all down to communication. It's how someone might say something. It's how someone receives something. It's how the tone they use. It's the body language. So I think if you can work on some of these things and you can share with your partner, I don't appreciate the tone you're using, or I don't think this is acceptable, how we're communicating with each other, it can help the relationship. So the fifth thing, this comes up a lot as well for couples, but also for people, is being defensive. So usually I'd say the reason people become defensive is out of fear. So when you when someone is coming to you and they're saying something to you and you don't agree with it, it's like a trigger within you. So they might be saying, I'm really not happy with how you are doing A, B, and C. The first thing in your mind will be that that means this person doesn't love me. That means this person doesn't think I'm a good father or a good mother. That means this person is going to fire me from my job. That means this person. So when you have those thoughts and it's coming out from fear, the first thing you then do is go into defensive mode. You want to protect yourself. You want to defend yourself. The problem with that is, once you go into defensive mode, you're not hearing anything the person is saying. And some of the feedback could be true, but you're so hurt, that you're so angry, you're so upset, that you're not hearing it all. So being defensive means that you can't hear anything. You're putting a barrier up, you're putting defenses up. And Maybe it is to do with the way that the person is saying something. So the way to deal with that is to let your partner know that they're being defensive. If you're the person being defensive, let your partner know why you've become defensive. So you might say something like, when you use you words, when you keep blaming me for everything, when you say that things are going wrong because of me, I'll get defensive because one, I don't think that's true, and two, that hurts my feelings. Let your partner know. But then the second thing is something I've created with couples that I've worked with, and it's called a communication agreement. So when I've worked with couples, we've sat down and we've looked at when this happens in our relationship. So when we have an argument, how are we going to deal with it? So it might be that you agree as a couple that one person's going to take time out and have 5 minutes. But if you agree on that, you can't then turn around during that argument and say, no, we're going to talk about this till we get a resolution, because you've already put an agreement together that you're going to let your partner have time out. So setting a communication agreement, and it's worked for me with many couples that I've worked with. They've literally wrote down what they're going to do in certain situations that come up where there's communication problems, how they're going to address it. So they make an agreement, they either shake on it or they sign it, and then it just helps when that situation arises. They know that, okay, well, this is what we've agreed to, this is what we've said is going to work for us. So the final thing that comes up for people is being critical. So constant criticism can lead to insecurity. It can lead to low self-esteem. Your partner can start to doubt themselves. This can happen also in family dynamics. This can happen in many situations. You know, if you've been on the receiving end of a constantly critical person, it can do a lot of damage, because it's basically they're pointing out every single flaw within you. They're saying, you're not good enough at this. You need to do better. I don't like this about you. I don't like this about you. It can be personal. It can just leave you feeling not very good about yourself. So if you're dealing with a partner who is very critical, I think it's a gentle way where you just kind of educate that person. Most people love their partner, so they're not intentionally going to be critical. What's going to happen is that they're in a habit of behaving in that way. So they don't know how to be anything else except critical. So if you educate them by saying, you know, when you criticize something about me, it really hurts me because it makes me feel sad because you're criticizing something about me that I like. Or when you give me feedback, I would like you to give me feedback in this way instead of giving feedback in that way, because then it will feel less hurtful and I'll feel less criticized. So tell them how you feel. Ask them to think about why they're being critical. So maybe say to your partner, you know, have you always been someone who's a critical person? Or have you thought about why you're quite critical towards others? Is it coming from the past? Was you in a household an environment where your parents used to be critical to you? Sometimes understanding your partner involves asking questions and getting to know each other. It doesn't always have to be attacking their behavior, attacking their personality, and then, you know, telling them what they're doing wrong. Sometimes just sitting down and understanding each other, you know, asking how many couples or people in relationships don't know anything about their partner's past, don't know how their partner grew up, don't understand their partner's personality. It's about asking questions. So what I would say is that communication is always going to come up. Communication issues are going to come up in relationships because you've got two people who are coming from two different backgrounds, two different upbringings, two different sets of experiences, different ways of communicating. That's part of life, but you don't have to get stuck in dynamics where you're in this toxic way of communicating, where there is bickering all the time, where there is a lack of understanding, where there is defensiveness, stonewalling, competing with each other, escalating arguments, you know, trying to think that you're right. There is too many to even talk about, but there are so many communication issues that can destroy a really good relationship. Everything can be fine. You can have the attraction to each other. You can have the values in common. You can have, you know, just look good together. So many things can be working. But if you can't get the communication right, at some point, your relationship is going to just end, because you're both going to just get so tired and exhausted from these communication difficulties that there's going to be no way forward. So thank you to everyone, Rui, Buckethead, and everyone that joined on this live stream. I really appreciate it. So this live stream is to take place of Monday, because normally I go live on a Monday, but because it's Easter Monday, I'm giving everyone a day off, including myself. So this is what that's replacing, and I appreciate people for jumping on the live stream. Anyone that joins on the replay, feel free to leave your comments. Feel free to let me know what you think, and if you want to find out more about the work I do, you can find out here. But you can also go to my Facebook page, which is also called Marianne Hanson Counselling Service. It's got my website details and all of my contact details on there. Thanks for watching. Have a happy Easter, everyone, and a great weekend. Bye.